In this tutorial, we're going to create this curved wall with the elliptical window using a polygon plane and a CV curve tool. I'm going to start by creating this elliptical tool using the Bezier curve tool. I'll hold down my space bar. I'll go to Create, Curve Tool, Bezier curve tool. And I'm going to use the grid so I can make this somewhat symmetrical and sized to the way I want it. So I'm going to start there, and I'll click and drag a Bezier here. I'll quickly go around and create the shape. And now that I have pretty much what I want, I'll hit return, hold down the space bar, go to curves, and click on open close. And now I have my ellipse. Now if I wanted to, I could right click, go to control vertices. I could get in really close here, hold down X and snap these vertices to their grid point. I'll do the same for this, hitting F to get close, holding down X and snapping. I'm going to do that all the way around the perimeter. And that will do pretty well for the tutorial. You may want to be a little bit more precise and take more time when you create something like this yourself. I'll center the pivot, delete by type history. Now I'm going to create a polygon plane. So I'll go to Create, Polygon Plane, Polygon Primitives, Plane. And I'll just zoom back and draw the surface I want for my finished wall. And I'm going to go to the perspective view. And I'm just going to move that wall back further than the curve so we can kind of see what's happening here. In my perspective view, I'm just going to move the polygon plane back a bit so that I can separate them out and we can see what will be happening pretty shortly here. Now, I'm going to be able to project this elliptical shape against this polygon plane, but there's not enough geometry to maintain that curve that I want when I open it up for the window. So I'm going to go over to Poly Plane under Inputs, and I'm going to bump the subdivision width and height up to maybe 30. I might have gone up a little higher, but for the sake of the tutorial and your workstation, you may be a bit cautious about crashing the computer based on the polygon count. In my perspective view, I'm going to select the elliptical path, shift select the geometry, go up to the top of the user interface to edit mesh, and go to project curve on mesh. I'm going to go to the attributes, and I'm going to make sure that it's set for XY plane, and then I'll leave the tolerance as it is, and I'll hit project curve. Now if I look at my geometry, there's another curve, and it's against the geometry. Now I want to use this to punch a hole in the geometry. So with it selected, I'll shift select the polygon plane again, and now I'll go back up to edit mesh, and down at the bottom there will be split mesh with projected curve. I'm going to go to the attributes once again for that, and I'm going to check off split and detach edges. Now I'll click on split and close, and if I were to move that geometry now, we're going to see that it is projected that curve onto our geometry as a series of separated polygon faces. So if I were to right click and choose face and select one, I can hold down my shift key and hit my period key to gather all those faces together, and you'll see they are collectively a separate entity now. Now before I do anything else, I want to put a curve on it though. So I'll right click and go back to object mode, and I'm going to select the geometry, hold down the space bar, go to deform, nonlinear, and click on bend. The bend tool comes in vertical, but I need this horizontal, and you'll see why in a moment. So I'm going to hit E to get the rotation tool, and I'm going to rotate it on my z-axis. As I do this, I can refer to the channel box in the right hand corner. And what I want to do now is make the rotation Z 90, and now I want to edit this to bend the wall towards me. I'm going to hit T on the keyboard, and it breaks that tool into a sub-edit form. You'll notice that there are blue diamonds placed on either end of your geometry and in the center. The one in the center is going to allow me to pull towards the front of the screen and bend that. Now, it's not the direction I want, but I'm going to leave it like that for reference, because if I get my rotation tool now by hitting E, I can now rotate that back on the y-axis. And once again, if I look in my channel window, there is Y. I'll make it 90, hit return. And if I would hit 5 on the keyboard, now we can see that it has the curvature of that bend tool. Now, I've got what I want, so I'm going to delete by type history. And what that means is now that bend is permanent no matter where I move it. Now, if I wanted to go further with this, I could select the faces that comprise the window. I'm going to right-click, choose face, select any one of them, hold the Shift key, and hit the period key to gather the window up. I'm going to move it back a bit because I want to go in and create a window frame on my window. I don't want it to be flat. I'm going to use the Extrude tool to make the window frame on this. I'll right-click and choose Edge, and I'll double-click on any of the edges in the opening for the window. You'll see that it selects all the lines that comprise the window shape. I'm going to click on my Extrude button, which is the orange block on the white plane, and I'm going to click on the blue dial to center it, so that now I can pull forward, I can scale if I want, I'll add another poly face, and by adding new poly surfaces and scaling, I can create a window frame that I might want. And now you can see that we have these surfaces of which you can go ahead and select the faces for the window, add your material to that, and then you can add a new material to the wall. So you can see now that that workflow will work for projecting and cutting kind of custom holes inside of geometry.